Welcome to today's interview. My name is Rob Mander, International Tax Leader at RSM International. The coronavirus situation is certainly an unprecedented one for all of us. And in this interview series, I'm going to be talking with leaders within our international tax business on the key actions and business plan steps that global middle market companies should be taking as they now deal with this situation. And today I'm talking with Sarah Gish, a partner in the Global Employer Services Group of RSM US. Sarah, welcome and thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Rob. Very pleased to be here.
Sarah, we've seen over the last few weeks travel restrictions that most of us have never seen before. Countries have closed borders, imposed travel restrictions, enforced self-isolation, and in some cases imposed unheralded restrictions on community activity. So given that very rapid development of coronavirus and its global impact, I'd like to start by getting an overall perspective from you as a partner in our Global Employer Services Group on what the immediate impact this has been on your clients and on their global teams.
Yeah, good question, Rob. As the coronavirus or COVID-19 continues to spread across the world, globally mobile employees and their employers are faced with many business complications as a result of one of the most significant pandemics of recent history. The coronavirus has tested the adaptability and agility of business organizations as they combat the increasing disruptions faced by their employees, both domestically and abroad. As the safety and well-being of employees is paramount, swift measures have needed to be taken to relocate employees based in affected areas, shift to remote working arrangements, or in some cases, employees have returned home altogether. It is imperative for employers with global and mobile employees to weigh whether it makes sense to delay future assignments or to extend current assignments to allow the assignees additional time to fulfill their business purpose. Some key issues that companies should consider are immigration concerns, unplanned individual tax filings, navigating relief provided by local tax authorities, social tax implications, corporate tax risks, just to name a few.
So, Sarah, just to explore some of those issues in a little bit more detail, once companies have taken those first steps to ensure the safety and health of their employees, and that might be by ensuring their safe return home, perhaps relocating them, or alternatively taking the necessary steps to quarantine them or provide for alternative safety in their foreign country. So what comes next?
Yeah, as employees may have relocated to unexpected jurisdictions, it is crucial for companies to really monitor the location of their global workforce. They've got to support their employees in light of travel restrictions and assist with possible immigration requirements. Companies should also become aware of visa renewal policies for employees who must stay longer than anticipated. As the spread of the virus poses unexpected challenges to global employers, really careful consideration of the needs of the business, employees, and customers should be evaluated in order to determine how best to carry out their business operations with as little disruption as possible. By understanding the latest rules and carefully assessing the risks, it'll allow the companies to adapt and really respond quickly to ensure that their employees are supported and that costs are contained.
So understandably, that first key action has been to get employees safe. But in many cases, that would have been expensive or continues to be expensive. There are likely to be airfares, travel costs, emergency accommodation, perhaps medical bills that need to be paid. So in the midst of all of that, what kind of information do employers need to make sure that they're tracking?
Yeah, there's lots of things that they should be tracking now that we've had all these changes. A couple of areas would be insurance arrangements, medical insurance, what is covered by employment contracts, and employment contracts in the different countries that they may be in now. The home country or the host country to bear the cost. Who's going to take the cost of these additional expenses? What are the different tax concessions for emergency travel and medical expenses in those different countries? Identifying the employer and employee costs, and then really keeping a really good record and detail of the travel that's happening right now.
So in normal times, global mobility is something that is generally planned well in advance. Sometimes that might be months or it could be years. And companies have the opportunity to assess how cross-border tax matters will be handled. So I would say with the coronavirus situation, this has accelerated both a health shock and an economic shock to the system at the same time. And in this situation, there have been unexpected tax issues that could arise as companies respond to a situation that has happened so suddenly. So in that context, Sarah, what should companies be doing now to look after both themselves and their employees?
Yeah, there's a good many areas. One particular, though, that you've mentioned is unplanned individual tax filings. Individuals may find themselves working from an unexpected location as a result of the virus. For example, they may be working remotely from home, from a less affected jurisdiction outside the country in which they normally work, or from a third country location where they were on a business trip and now cannot return home. Regardless of the situation, though, employees who have relocated in response to the virus should be very mindful of triggering unexpected tax residency and or individual income tax filing in the new work location. So they really should be appropriate tax planning to minimize the unintended host country income tax liability due to these short time periods spent working in a particular location. As a further issue, relocating employees to another country may create double taxation, as certain countries tax income that is paid locally, even if the individual is physically working in a different jurisdiction. These situations could significantly increase an employee's tax burden, as well as the complexity of their tax situation.
So Sarah, governments and tax administrations, they've been very quick to introduce tax concessions, whether they be reductions or waivers of payroll taxes or other PAYG support to assist companies with the ongoing costs of employment. So in general, what kind of action are you seeing from the tax authorities, and how, importantly, should companies make sure they're doing everything required to utilise the concessions that are available?
Yeah, navigating relief provided by local tax authority is kind of a tricky area right now because of how fast things are changing. As a result of the pandemic, certain countries have already announced extensions of time to meet tax obligations and other reliefs. Notably, the US has extended the individual income tax payment and filing deadline and provides a tax rebate in certain situations. While there may be more country-specific announcements to come, a best practice at this stage should be to prepare to meet the normal deadlines unless there are significant difficulties in doing so. Communications, that's another big area. The situation is changing rapidly and countries are regularly imposing new payment rules as the situation develops. Therefore, it is critical to check regularly with your local country advisors who will have access to the latest information and will be able to assist with your communications with their tax authorities. We can't forget the social tax implications too, Rob. Individuals who have been displaced from their normal work location and are working from a different jurisdiction could also trigger an unexpected social tax liability. For example, taxes paid to support retirement, healthcare, and other social programs administered locally. Since social tax liability generally arises in the location where the work is performed. As such, companies should be aware of the applicable country's social tax obligations so that they can make the appropriate steps to meet the employer and employee local compliance and payment obligations, including having in place appropriate documentation, such as a certificate of coverage.
So, Sarah, we've just talked about the individual level and the employee level there. So, if we can turn for a moment to the company level, at the company level, the relocation of its employees could certainly have some sudden and unexpected consequences. So, what are you seeing there in that respect?
Yeah, so there's a lot of corporate tax risks. And if an employee relocates to work in a jurisdiction outside of the country in which they normally work for an extended period of time, they really need to be wary of inadvertently exposing the employer to tax filing and payment obligations in the new country. This could occur if the employee's activities constitute a taxable presence. You know, even work conducted remotely can trigger a taxable presence, resulting in a tax filing and payment obligation. You know, treaties may provide some relief where the employee's activities do not constitute a permanent establishment. And so companies must analyze the facts and circumstances of each situation against local laws, and employers should develop a mitigation or compliance strategy as appropriate. You know, as COVID-19 may change the way companies are carrying out business and sending goods into other countries, multinational companies may also need to review their current corporate structure, supply chains, existing intercompany agreements, along with tariff and other customs implications.
So given this unknown nature of the coronavirus and the fact that its progressions at different stages around the world, it seems this situation is going to be with us for many months. So on that basis, what, from your experience, should companies and their HR teams be doing now to ensure that they're meeting their tax obligations for their global employees who have experienced a sudden change in their working arrangements?
Yeah, in addition to the income and social tax obligations that may apply, employers should also be aware that they may be required to run payroll and withhold tax for their employees working in these new locations, depending on the local tax law. For example, leave accrual policies and worker protections may vary significantly from country to country. Local labor laws and procedures may also need to be considered in situations where employers are requesting that employees work from home or another location. Companies should ensure that the local labor laws and procedures are followed in order to minimize possible claims against the employer. If an employee is required to work from a third jurisdiction, a review of local health insurance coverage may also be required to ensure the health and safety of the employee. Companies should consider how to support employees who contract the virus as well during a foreign assignment, and how to process health insurance claims and otherwise provide support to sick employees.
So that support is likely to continue for many months, it would seem, and therefore many companies that have experienced these unexpected disruptions to their existing employment arrangements, they're being forced to make changes, and those changes are often with immediate effect. Sarah, if we can look forward to the medium term of perhaps 6 or 12 months into the future, how should companies ensure they use this opportunity to be best placed when global opportunities do arise again in the future for their people?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, questions they need to be asking is, how do we help the employee maintain contact with their overseas location if they've suddenly been required to return to the home country? How do we ensure the overseas business still gets the benefit of the expat's expertise, even if they are physically relocated? Supporting the expat employees if they have been unable to return home and now are isolated due to travel or quarantine restrictions. The expats may be working from home. Expat employees are generally very good at this because they have already spent time away from their home office. So how can we actually use their expertise and share it through the organization to help others at this time? We should be ensuring that the company is collecting its expertise in one place so that all employees throughout the organization know how to access information globally. And communication. Communication is the key. Coronavirus is a new situation for everyone. So information needs to be regularly updated and employees need a reliable source. Companies that establish and communicate their COVID-19 support policies clearly and quickly will help keep workers safe and productive and will distinguish themselves in the marketplace, not only now, but as we go through this crisis. And they'll create intangible value that will last long beyond the COVID-19 crisis.
Sarah, you've provided some great information and insights from your experience with many global clients. So thank you for joining us today. All the best to you and your clients and contacts and friends as we all set and develop our plans to work through these challenges.
Thank you, Rob.